Dear students, I welcome you all for the online learning for the course Warehousing Automation. So till now we are in the series process of learning the course, and as of now we have completed unit 1. With respect to the earlier playlist, we completed unit 2, and as discussed in the offline class for the facilitation of easy understanding, now we'll directly jump into unit 3, and henceforth I will just go ahead by the order. So there is no particular order. That is, unit 2 is going to be a queuing theory, which is of numerical in nature. So therefore, to imbibe the confidence among the students, we are skipping unit 2 and now we'll go for unit 3. So the content for FAT will be obviously unit 1 and unit 3. Then we'll go for 2, 4 and 5. And the another reason for opting unit 3 is only one, that is it is going to be continuation of the thing what we left in unit 1. That is, in unit 1 we discussed about physical process automation, in which particularly we dealt with respect to material handling systems. Now it is going to be a cluster of other such technologies with respect to it. So henceforth we'll just start with unit 3. Yeah, so these all are the contents for unit 3. So there are total 9 chapters in this particular unit, and today we shall discuss about the first chapter and the first half. So basically the first chapter is going to be of two different headings. The first heading is project planning and the next is feasibility analysis. So these all are the two particular topics what we are going to cover in first chapter. So before we get into it, we need to understand why, as a warehousing automation student, when you learn about it, what is the need and necessity for us to learn about project planning. See, the first foremost thing is we should know what is a project and why planning is essential for that. Now in the context of warehousing automation, when you see, our project is construction or modification of an existing or something new warehouse. So that is going to be the case for us. So now how to go ahead with this particular project planning is going to be the first task, and what all are the tools and techniques are available in order to accomplish this task is going to be the core essence of this particular chapter. So project. So any course you do, say diploma or engineering in the postgraduate level or undergraduate level, whatever may be the case, we need to do project at the end. So what does it emphasizes? We learn, we acquire sufficient knowledge in this regard, and finally we are going to put down everything in the form of a practical activity where we are going to use the knowledge what we have gained in the due course, that we are going to implement maybe for the benefit of the society or to solve some problem or whatever may be the nature of problem we have taken out. So that is what our understanding with respect to project is. So now we'll see right from the technical details in order to overcome the logical fallacy. A work often involving many people that is planned and organized carefully. So this is what the dictionary meaning for project. So it is going to be a work where multi people are going to come. Why do we call multi people? Means different types of tasks will be there. So different types of people will be there. So usually it will be a multifunctional task people or cross functional team. So there a proper planning and organization is essential in order to get a proper task. Now, project planning. So it is a critical aspect of establishing or redesigning a warehouse to ensure sufficient operations, optimize space and meet business objectives. So project planning in a general context, that is maybe from a managerial perspective, it is very crucial as well as critical activity where we are going to ensure whether are we going to establish a brand new warehouse or are we going to modify something which is existing. So this has to be taken care. So how this can be done in a very effective way is very simple. We can optimize. The thing is, the objectives are like this. We need to ensure maximum space utilization, that is optimize the space and meet the business objective. So business objective is nothing but the challenges what we faced in the earlier case, that has to be obviously be overcome in a business objective. So that those all are the things. That is, in short, we should minimize the losses. So now how this particular activity can be done. So the moment when we talk about project planning, it's a complicated task because it's a series of activity. So how many activities are there means there are total 7 key steps are there. 7 key steps are there, and usually industrial best practices, they don't do anything as such. That is, initially a proper series of activities will be done, and then for a proper solution will be arrived, and then it will be taken care of. So now we'll get into the steps one by one. So these all are the 7 steps. So first step. So first step is we should define the goals and objectives. What are our goals? How are we going to accomplish the task? What's the objective for that? So obviously, don't have a misconception that these 7 steps are applicable only for something with respect to warehousing automation case. No. Any project you do, any project, maybe your mini project with respect to honors course or your final project, whatever the nature of thing you do, so it is like this. We are going to define the goals. What's my goal? How am I going to accomplish this particular task will be the core essential activity. Then setting the scope. See, you can't just like that do all sorts of wonders in a project. You do a project for a minimum while and you can't do miracles in these areas. Okay. So set up some sort of scope. So what is going to be your scope? What all are the things you are going to consider under your purview? So that is going to be a breaker. It's going to be a break-even concept even for that. So now how to understand this particular scope? So let me go with one other simple example. You wanted to do some sort of project in an some sort of energy efficiency. So can you do energy efficient which is very highly an equipment which is highly efficient, where you can increase its efficiency somewhere by 100% means obviously the answer is no. So existing might be some 13% or 15%. So your scope will be moderately increasing. That's it. That's the only one what we can do. Or else we need to have some sort of disruptive inventions or innovations where 100% or even beyond is something which is highly tough, but not impossible, but it is going to be tough. So therefore we need to set the scope. So margin, this is what my margin is all about. So day one, when you wanted to go ahead with a warehouse, it is not possible to implement AGV or AMR or shuttle system or ASRS. No. So have set a first initially, this is what the thing. But in future we will consider all these things, means we should have considerations even for that activity. Then third, create a schedule. So there are several tools and techniques are there. Plan, how are we going to execute your project? What all are the different types of steps are there? Some timeline, you should have some timeline, because any project, the task is accomplished only by means of timeline. Then defining deliverables. At the end of the project, what will you be able to deliver? That is before and after. Before implementation of the project, the productivity was say some 5%. After implementation of some sort of modern material handling systems, the productivity has increased to say some 20% or so. Yes, likewise you should quantify. So that is what deliverables is all about. Then identifying the resources. So resources might be men, material, method, or some cases even machine. So risk assessment. This itself is a separate chapter what we will be dealing in later cases. So obviously we should assess the risk. What all are the risks involved in the process has to be thoroughly considered. Then establishing communication plans. How are you going to communicate among the various people involved in the process? So these all are the 7 steps. Now we'll discuss everything in detail. One by one we'll be discussing. So we know the concept that it's a structured approach. Project planning is a structured approach to guide the project right from initiation to completion of warehouse planning. Now, the first foremost important thing is the space utilization. How are we going to utilize the space? Number one, task number one. Task number two, how do we accomplish this particular task? So these all are the different types of mechanisms what we need to consider. So first step, now let us get into the first phase. Okay, project initiation and requirements gathering. Clearly defined project goals. This is what is very important. So first concept, we kickstart with the project by data gathering. Okay, so on the contrary, when you see without data it is not possible, highly impossible. So we start the project with the data gathering. So what is the data gathering here? We need to go ahead is the need for the warehouse project. You are going to go ahead with a new setup, or you are going to redesign, or you are going to expand whatever the thing, or you are going to implement some sort of IT infrastructures, that is WMS, warehousing management software implementation. So this is how we need to fix up a goal. What's a goal? You want to set up a new, or you are going to redesign whatever the existing is there for the case of utilization or other case. And the next is expansion. Existing thing will be there and you want to expand the same to some other level or software, how you wanted to do the task. So these all are the things what we need to plan at the first itself. Then the next, assemble the project team. See, only mechanical background engineers or automation background engineers alone will not solve the purpose, because here multitasking comes into picture. So we should have different stakeholders in this regard. So now stakeholders means, for example, in our teaching learning process within the college, when you understand the outcome based education, you can understand there are several stakeholders over there. So first stakeholder is going to be obviously the employer, because they are the people who are going to take the products, that is students, for the employment. So they should be have some sort of skill oriented knowledge should be there. Okay, so employer will be the thing, that is people from industry. Then people from academia background, say institutions of importance, will be people will be playing a crucial role. Alumni, passed out students, parents. So these all are the people who are considered to be stakeholders in this regard. So similarly, here we are going to assemble a project team in which people from operations, people from logistics, IT and management will be a part of it. So that's where earlier slide we discussed that we need to form a multifunctional team or a cross-functional team was the thing what we need to focus upon. Then it is the routine case. So something extraordinary, some other different cases when you see, we have got two more things. Okay. What is the thing is, when any project, any car or something like that in an industry, when you get into it, so usually people from manufacturing background, then people from service, quality, likewise whomever is associated with the project, that is the product, will be part of that team, number one. And number two is, why do we do so is, they will be able to give their expertise terms with respect to the input. So these all are the reasons why do we focus upon. Identify requirements. So the first task was, we just made a team and we fixed the objective. And now requirements, what all are the requirements we wanted to go ahead with? Analyze the type and volume of goods. So what all are the nature of goods are we going to handle? What is the type? What type is it going to be? Whether it is going to be perishable, it is going to be non-perishable. So we need to know about all those things. Then storage needs. What sort of storage is it necessary? Because if you are going with some sort of chemically reactive material, we can't go with the afore discussed thing in unit 1, carousels or something like that. So storage has to be considered. Then handling requirement. So safety plays a crucial role. So obviously how to handle such things has to be discussed, or it has to be confirmed at the earlier case itself. Unique operational constraints. See, all the products can't be dealt in the same way how we do on a very generic cases. Some unique operational constraints are there. For example, temperature might be there. So when you get into a warehouse, yes, pharmaceutical based on pharmaceutical requirement, yes, we need to go ahead with a different strategy, because we handle with medicines. So pharmaceutical requirements will be different. So likewise, petroleum product, the requirements are going to be different. So likewise, this particular operational constraints has to be thought of. One simple case is, you wanted to deal with glass. Can you handle in a very rough case? Means the answer is obviously no. So this is how we need to think of how to go ahead with the operational constraints. Then next, planning phase. So planning phase means we need to go ahead list all the tasks. What all are the tasks we need to go ahead with? So break the project into clear tasks and work packages. So who is going to do which particular task? For example, we are going to construct something new, site selection. It is not going to be the purview of a automation engineer there. So it will be our input will only confine towards the within the or intrabound logistics. Within the warehouse only we will be focusing. Where the site is located, how far it is from the city, how far it is from the national highway. It is none of the business of an automation engineer. But here civil engineer plays a very crucial role. Whether the water affinity, transportation, everything is in a very feasible thing, everything will be dealt by him. So different tasks will be there and allocated different packages, work packages. Create schedule. So under what timeline? So when this particular task will be completed, when the next activity can be carried out. So likewise, it has to be thought of. Estimate costs. Yes, this is very important. Actually, this will be the one crucial constraints where we need to stick to the target dates. Why? Because once when we are unable to stick to the target dates, the cost of the project will escalate, and some cases it will be a serious offense. So therefore, initially the estimation has to be very proper, that it should not be a overestimation, as well it should not be underestimation. So that is how it has to be thought of. So calculate budgets for construction, equipment, systems, permits and personnel. So by all means, the activity, that is the cost, has to be estimated. Map the warehouse. Use detailed blueprints. Blueprints are nothing but drawings, software or manual. That is, it might be a hard copy or it might be a soft copy, but it should have detailed case. See, this is what the topic what we completed with respect to unit 1, layout. So once your layout is ready, we are supposed to specify what is the receiving area, what is the waiting area, picking and packing area, how about our layout with respect to aisle configuration, everything we discussed there. So it is none other than the same thing. So the final requirement has to be given so that we can go ahead with planning of further things, that is dock doors, shelving, office spaces, columns and operational zones, receiving, storage, packing, shipping, because these things are being clearly emphasized or specified in the blueprints. So that has to be carefully given. Based on that, even estimation activity is possible. Now, once the layout is ready, so now site engineer, that is civil engineer, will take care of the construction. Now, what our focus is going to be, how about the material flow and process layout? So earlier, that is on unit 1 final chapter, we discussed about layouts. So this is an extension of that. How are we going to plan? So this has to be very carefully thought of. Else what will happen means it will lead to bottleneck. See, you have planned two areas adjacent, receiving versus packing. Both are kept side by side. Is it will it not pave a way for further confusion? Means yes, the answer is going to be definitely yes. So we should have properly thought of where shipping should be different and loading and unloading, that is incoming of the product, should be in a different case. So that docking process should have been thought of, and we should ensure that we don't have any sort of traffic in this regard. No traffic, nothing. So that has to be carefully thought of. Then plan equipment and technology. So we should clearly go ahead with one important activity, that is how are we going to handle the material? What are the different types of material handling are we going with? So initially we might be using some sort of pallets or forklifts or conveyors, or some cases some lower level activity would have been there. Say for example, some manual based activity, say carousels, manual lifting. Then later on we might change to forklifter and in turn to AGV and AMR. So we should have futuristic thinking in such a way that all these activities should have been planned in a very effective case. So that is where the role of multifunctional team comes into picture. Then this is with respect to hardware, that is physical process. Now with respect to digital process, we should have one important activity, that is IT needs. So today everything is getting modernized. Even we saw about AIDC techniques. So how maybe at the day one we may not be having all sorts of activities, but over a period of time, yes, we are supposed to have this particular task. So initially the IT requirements might be low, but with respect to time, how are we going to go ahead with this? So that has to be thought of. Just a minute. Design and resource allocation. So this is another important task. Okay. Why? Because we have got different tasks in a warehouse. So product incoming is going to be different, product outgoing is going to be different. How are we going to map all these things? So first is warehouse zoning. So we should allocate different zones. Now, before getting into this, we should understand what all are the maximum or major activities what we do in a warehouse. So inbound logistics, that is incoming, storage place, picking, packing, outbound, return area. So these all are the different activities what we do with respect to a warehouse. Now, should we do all these things in one particular zone, or should we have different zones? Zone 1 will be dealing with this. Zone 2 will be dealing with something else. So likewise, we need to go ahead with, if such things are there, then we should plan very prior to it in a very advanced case that has to be thought of. Storage and racking. Yes, this is another important case. So inbound, it has come, it has been kept one place. How are we going to bring to the storage rack? Whether it is going to be adjacent or it is going to be far away. So all such things has to be considered. And another, everywhere you should, one point should always haunt us, product item, that is factor in safety. So how to handle different materials. This is what product item. So all the materials cannot be handled in the same case. Different material needs different operational instructions to overcome hazards. That is where risk assessment comes into picture. So all these things should be thought of. For example, chemicals, when you handle chemical means obviously chemical based thing means PPE comes into picture. Personal protective equipments. Of course, for other things it will be minimalistic. Whereas when we discuss with respect to chemical, it's going to be highly different. So that has to be thought of. Then temperature, perishables. Okay, if it is a perishable item means temperature plays a crucial role. Foods or any products which deteriorates with respect to time. So for the temperature plays a very crucial thing. And some cases, some special products also might be there. So utilities and compliances. Plan for lighting. Yes, warehouse should always have sufficient light. Safety systems should be there. Climate control should be there. Of course, climate control is not applicable for all, but however, some minimalistic cases it has to be adhered. And regulatory requirements. Government has its own regulations and certain products has to be abided with some safety norms. So staffing and training, of course, people, those who work, they should be given with sufficient training with respect to the processes, with respect to the equipment, etc. Execution and implementation. So after having all these activities, we are supposed to execute everything, because here whatever the plan we made out is going to be executed. So first thing is get necessary permits and approvals from government bodies or government agencies. Then procure and install equipments. So our designs are ready, requirements are ready. We would have told to our say manufacturer, and they will be going ahead with manufacturing. Once everything is ready, we can go ahead with implementation. So finally, marking is very essential. Traffic lanes and post, what are the important signs you wanted to go ahead with can be made of. The next, systems go live, that is you start to work. Okay, ensure all the systems and processes are operational. Run integrated testing one by one, not all at the time, one by one, do on a trial basis. Go with dry runs. Dry runs means where actual product will not be there. We will be just doing everything with the real activity, but with dummy products, not with the original products, with the dummy products. Then we'll define SOP, standard operating procedure, and will be an exhaustive training will be given for all the thing. Change management, communicate changes and train teams to minimize resistance. So some sort of differences will then and because then and there it will be there, because initially some resistance, some frictions do play a very crucial role. So those things has to be carefully thought of, and whatever the changes we go ahead with should be properly communicated. The next task is monitoring and evaluation. So monitor all the things by means of some specific tools. One is milestone chart or Gantt charts. So have some mechanisms to monitor the workflow, and the other important thing is evaluate the performance of the warehouse, because earlier we discussed about before and after. Before how the process was, and now how the process is. So likewise we should have a proper understanding. Then adjust layout and processes are as needed. If any fine tuning is essential, yes, we should think of. Continuous improvement. So Rome can't be built in a single day. So likewise, as going per the saying, So we should improve the process day by day. So day 1 is something we would have did, day 2, day 3, likewise. With respect to time, we should try to enhance the efficiency and increase the business needs. Effective project planning always prevents costly mistakes. So this is a known fact and proven fact too. So supports timely completion and improves warehouse efficiency. A comprehensive project plan should cover tasks from business case and design through construction, IT setup, staff onboarding, and go live to evaluation. So earlier we just defined our objectives, whether those objectives are being dealt or been kindly and it has been addressed or not. And another important thing is it should be a multitasking activity even for the future case, because IT setup plays a very crucial role. So day by day the things will get changed. So those things also to be considered, and some provisions for expansion should have been thought of. Mapping dependencies between tasks and work streams is critical for managing risk and ensuring on-time delivery. So the dependency factor should be there. Okay. So if some loading and unloading of part is essential, means we need to depend on some other part, that is material handling system. So communication should be there, or else even after proper picking and packing, okay, the product would have not been taken for shipping case. Why? Because we are depending on something. So that dependency should be clearly thought of, and that should be nicely considered. Okay. So now we'll consider the final topic for the summary case. So as of now, we just got into unit 3. So in unit 3, the main focus was with respect to project planning. So 7 crucial steps in a very generic case we just discussed, then followed by the discussions pertaining to warehouse. In a warehouse, how do we do? In a step-by-step cases we just thought of. So basically it starts with layout. So layout is going to be the first crucial task. So from layout, we just did one by one, and finally we just culminated with respect to future scope of importance. Okay. So this is what project planning pertaining to a warehouse is. Okay. So with this we finish the first chapter for unit 3, and the second half feasibility analysis will be dealt in another presentation. Thank you.